This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, and I'm joined by a new friend out of Maryland, David Robinson, who is the head of school at Washington Christian Academy in Olney, Maryland. I think I'm saying it right, but Olney, Maryland. And he's doing some awesome things there. I feel like already quick friends because he's just got the personality that I connect with really, really quickly. And I'm looking forward to him and I's interview today. But before we jump into that, we do want to highlight our amazing sponsor, America's Christian Credit Union. Again, guys, I know I've mentioned this on the last couple episodes, but they are celebrating 65 years of service this year. And they do some really, really cool things specifically for schools, and they provide essential school banking services, tuition financing programs that for schools that are looking to reduce their risk of administrative burden when it comes to trying to collect the tuition that you guys are looking from your families. So I've talked with some of the people over there. They're awesome. And one of the things I love is that the tuition financing. So if you guys are feeling like at the end of the year, you're chasing families because they haven't finished paying fully the tuition that they owe, they can get a small tuition financing loan from America's Christian Credit Union, and then they take care of it, and you don't have to worry about it. You're always going to get fully all the tuition that you are due as a school because you guys are doing some awesome work. So go check them out. You can check them out online, americaschristiancu.com/schools. It's americaschristiancu.com/schools to check them out. Well, as I dive into here, I'm going to pass it off for a quick introduction for David. So, David, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Mitchell, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for the opportunity to be here.
It's going to be fun as always. And I always start the podcast off by saying, if I was to come visit you one day, what would you say, Mitchell? You got to do these things when you come visit to have the full experience.
Ooh, so coming to Maryland, I would definitely say that you need to head downtown to Baltimore and get you some crab cakes. And then I would, we're 30 minutes from DC as well. So you got to go to DC and take in the sights down there in DC as well.
Okay. How far away is Baltimore then?
So from us, probably about 40 to 45 minutes.
Okay. All right. So go to Baltimore, get some crab cakes. Is there a restaurant specifically that makes the best crab cakes, like the legit crab cakes?
I would say if you, probably avoid some of the chains and just try to find you a local mom and pop type of deal.
Okay.
But one chain that I do remember being fairly good was McCormick and Schmidt.
Okay.
They have a decent one.
Okay. My wife loves crab cakes. I would say I like crab cakes, but I've also not had a Maryland crab cake. It's been probably a frozen crab cake.
Yeah,
to be honest.
It will ruin you. I've become a little bit of a seafood snob. Unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say this to people that might hear it, but I'm the guy that will ask, is it jumbo lump crab meat or is it back fin? Because if it's not jumbo lump, then I'm going to go ahead and save my money and find something else on the menu.
I don't blame you. All right, so I'll be honest. I'm from Alaska, so I grew up around fish, grew up around all that fresh Alaska seafood. So I won't even order seafood typically in a restaurant because I'm just like, hey, it's probably not going to be the greatest, especially if they're like Alaska salmon or Alaska halibut. I'm like, we're in Florida. It's not going to be the greatest thing I've ever had. So I'm very hesitant. Or even if it's Alaska king crab, I will get that one if, that presents itself. But that's nothing better than when you go to a restaurant on the coast in Alaska in the summer and they go, oh, you want fish and chips? I go, yeah, is it fresh? Just came in on the boat. That is the best fish and chips ever. I love halibut. So I feel you, brother. I understand, I respect it. So, well, before we kind of dive into some of the questions I'd love to ask you, I'd love you to just kind of give us a background on you, how you got to specifically where you are at Washington Christian, and just kind of your background and education for the listeners to hear.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm what you would call a lifer in terms of Christian education. And so I got out of college and went right into working at my first Christian school. I've taught everything from health and phys ed to Bible. And then throughout my career, I've also coached various sports, mainly basketball on the guys and the girls side, and then football as well. Those have been the main sports that I've coached. My most recent stop before I ended up here at Washington Christian Academy, I was at a school, Grace Community School in Tyler, Texas, and I was part of the leadership team there. My role was equity and inclusion, and so what I was doing there was helping the school kind of walk down the road of what does it look like to become more accessible to families that desire Christian education. So talk about families that are ethnically diverse, coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and then even students that maybe had some mild learning differences or need a little extra care in the classroom. And so that position and that stop really started to prepare me, and I say started to prepare me because I really don't believe you're ever really prepared to be a head of school. I think you just gotta get in the seat and figure it out as you go. But while I was there at Grace, I really got exposed to the inner workings of a school. And I had the opportunity to work under a great head of school, Dr. Jay Ferguson, and he's been a huge influence. But just kind of getting that behind the scenes really started to prepare me. But just to be quite honest, I had no interest in being a head of school. I wanted nothing to do with it. And it was probably about 2 years ago, God just really started to press on me to hold things with an open hand. And so I started holding everything with an open hand and just praying that prayer. And over the course of 2 years, or those 2 years, I finished my master's degree in organizational leadership. And God just moved me from being very closed to being a head of school to open to it, and to ultimately, as I came across Washington Christian Academy, feeling compelled to come here. And so it was definitely God's hand at work because we enjoyed our time in Texas. We had no reason to leave. Like I said, I was working with a great head of school, had a lot of autonomy, and so it had to be a clear thing for us to move. And so I'm in my first year at Washington Christian Academy, and I am learning a lot. I have stretches where I feel like I'll eventually be okay at this, and I have stretches where I feel totally inadequate, and I'm thinking, what in the world was the board thinking? But I do have the support of a great board. I get an opportunity to come to work every day with some really cool people, and I'm excited about what God has for us as we move forward. And I'm excited because I'm almost to the end of my first year, so I will no longer be a rookie, and I could kind of put that behind me, catch my breath, and continue to move forward.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, tell us a little bit about Washington Christian Academy so people kind of know like the size of it, how long it's been around, get a little bit of the infrastructure.
Absolutely. So we are a K through 12 Christian school, and we've got right around 300 students. We have been in existence for about 60 years. We are not the ministry of a church, so we're an independent school in as far as that's concerned. And we are probably a little more unique than a lot of Christian schools because of just our ethnic diversity. I want to say around maybe 75% of our students would identify as students of color. And Montgomery County is a very culturally or ethnically diverse county and area, and so we reflect that in a lot of ways. And so with that, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of excitement. And I think we have an opportunity to show the greater community how we can live well and have true community with one another and with people that are coming from different walks of life.
Love it. Well, you've been there a year, you're finishing up your year. They've been around for 60 years, 300 students. Obviously, there comes some challenges that your school is probably up against. I'd love to hear about just some of the ones you guys are currently up against, but also how are you trying to combating those or trying to beat those challenges?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges is just the fact that we're a school in transition in a lot of ways. I'm a first year head. We're coming out of, COVID in this area in a lot of ways. And then on top of that, just the stress and the struggles that teachers across the country are seeing. And so you got all these things kind of factoring in. But with me being new, just that challenge of coming in and having an appreciation for the good work that had happened prior to me getting there or getting here, excuse me, but then also figuring out, okay, where is God taking us? Where do we need to go? What does the culture need to look like? And so for me, some of that challenge is how do I help us move at a pace that can be withstood or absorbed, I should say, by our people. And then also, how do I care for my people well? I said, teachers are leaving the profession at record numbers. That's no surprise. And burnout is a real thing. And so how do we foster an atmosphere where our faculty and staff are cared for? How do we make sure that their well-being spiritually and emotionally is prioritized? Because if we do that, then that's also going to trickle down to the students that they're interacting with each day. And so those are a couple of the challenges that I would say that we're dealing with right now. And I will say on the well-being front, I'm trying to be very intentional, because you asked about how are we addressing those things. And so first of all, I have to model it. It's one thing for me to say, oh, you need to be taking care of yourself, but then, not modeling that. Or I think sometimes, bosses say things like, oh, you should take the time, or, whatever those things are, but then there's unintended consequences, or sometimes there's an impression that's given that might be contrary to that sentiment. So I think modeling what that looks like, and then really trying to encourage people and providing support and accountability. So one very practical example of that is I was having a conversation not too long ago with one of our teachers, and she just really does a tremendous job, hard worker. I could tell she's somebody that goes home and continues to just plow away at home. And I asked her about, was she taking some time for herself to kind of unplug and get away? And she sighed and paused for a second and just said, I need to be better at that. And so I just encouraged her, you need to have a definitive end to the workday. Whatever it is. And I get it. Everybody's got that student, and if they reach out, they're gonna deal with that student, but have a definitive end. And so after that conversation, I followed that up by just sending an email to our whole faculty and staff, just reminding them of that. And some people responded to that and really appreciated it. So things like that on a small scale, but also just trying to make it become a part of our culture, that we have natural rhythms of now's the time to work, but now's the time to rest and be away at work.
Man, and that's so true. And it's even just obviously the biblical side of that of God told us to rest. And I love that came from you. And I think it meant more coming from you sitting down of like, one, you're new, you're getting caught to speed, but you noticed it and you called it out and pulled them aside one-on-one, which obviously is super important just in that essence. And you followed up. I think that's huge. So any obviously head of schools or leaders that are, listening in, it's just obviously you guys love your team and you want to show that, and that's one way to show them. That's probably even better than saying, hey guys, I brought donuts in for everybody. It's like, no, like I actually pulled them aside and asked, hey, how are you doing? Are you taking time off? Are you enjoying yourself? Like, how are the kids? Like that personal touch, because I'm assuming with 300 students, you guys got a fairly big staff of probably over 30, 40. What's your staff at?
Yeah, probably between 40 and 50, I would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously a lot. And so I don't know, if you're finishing your first year, what would you say, if we kind of talk about ideas of having like, do you have not to put you on the spot either, but do you have like a rollout of, I'm going to try and meet with everybody one-on-one once a month or once a quarter, like one-on-one with them in my office and just see how they're doing? Is there any type of thing that you try and do to just get to know them? Obviously, you're finishing your first year, trying to get to know 50 people plus 300 students and families. Like, that's hard. So do you have anything in place to try and do that?
I don't have anything formal per se. I do try to make sure they know that I'm accessible if they need to come and sit down. But one of the things that I do try to make happen is just having regular times where I just pop in. And sometimes I'm just popping in their class just to see what's going on, get a finger on the pulse, but not really any kind of formal observation or anything like that. Just want to have the vibe. But just trying to find times between classes or during an off period where I can just pop in and sit down for a few minutes and just hear how things are going. And so it feels probably a little more organic and not as structured. I'm coming to them as opposed to them coming to me. I think that means a lot as well. But yeah, no formal calendar with our teachers per se.
Okay.
Maybe that's something I should consider.
And I mean, you're the first one I think I've asked about last time because it popped in my head with the people I've interviewed. I know with me internally with my team, what we do, and I like it. I feel like it works. I called it coffee talks. So it's once a month. We have a meeting one-on-one, whether it's myself or my operations manager is like meeting one-on-one with everybody on the team at least once a month. Just how are you? And it's how are you doing? How's the family? It's not business related. It's just really trying to get to know people in a personal way, make sure they're doing okay. If there's something we can do on a better for them. And I was like, I'm gonna call it coffee talks because this is gonna be fun. And so I know that's important. It's a huge, time commitment to do that, but I know people, obviously we care about people. People are the lifeblood of a school, but even you just checking in like what you just said, that's huge because that's taking time out of your day to show that you care about, of course, them and their class and what they're doing. I love that. I think you're doing a great job, and it's a lot for your first year trying to learn all these people and all the students and their families, for goodness sake. I don't know how you can keep up with that at that size. And real quick, the school you came from in Texas, how big was that school that you left to come to this one?
So it was a bigger school, and so they're probably now around 1,100 students. And that's kind of like early education all the way through 12th grade. So.
Okay. Man, yeah. See, I don't even know how people keep up. I remember when I was a youth pastor, just trying to remember everybody's names. I think I had probably around 100 total between all the different levels. Like that's so many people to keep up with and remember their names and all that stuff. So awesome. Well, touching on the challenges, we touched on that one. I'd love to touch on what's going really good. This gives each school a chance to brag about what's going on at your school that you'd love to highlight and let everybody know.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I'm really excited about is just the opportunity as we move forward. I think there's a nice level of optimism. People are hopeful about the future. We just finished up. We have been going through, or we adopted a program called Teaching for Transformation. And so we just finished up our last professional development session with our school designer. And then we had our site visit that the people at Teaching for Transformation, they come and just observe and give you some feedback and some recommendations. And so that went really well. And the site visit team reported back that there was a lot of energy and positivity around the fact that people were getting the hang of it. People were looking forward to exploring new elements and aspects of Teaching for Transformation. And so that makes me excited because I believe in the framework of Teaching for Transformation, and I think it's something that's going to be a distinctive for us as a school, in our area, but also, and more importantly, I think it's something that's going to help us to really educate and invest in the whole student, which I believe needs to be paramount for us as a school. And so I'm excited about that and the hard work that our teachers have put in over the last couple of years of just kind of this onboarding of the program, and then just some of the work that's been done and some of the things that some of our teachers have tried. And I'm looking forward to seeing them continue to experiment and try things and get feedback and tweak it and just really provide an exciting educational experience for our students.
Love it. There's got to be some other cool things going on. What other things can we brag about for Washington? Sports, academics, retention, anything cool we can highlight?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we were a school in transition, and so we've been gradually this year looking to raise the bar in our approach to a lot of different things. Athletics would be one of those things. Our fine arts would be another. But I think for us, the thing that I'm most proud of is we got a lot of teachers that really do look and see the whole student, and they find ways to invest in the whole student. And so that really is one of the biggest things that I want to celebrate and that I want to brag on. It's just that environment and that culture. And as that becomes just the core of who we are, and it's widespread across the building, who knows what's going to happen as a result of it. And so that's really where it is for me right now. Seeing the care for our students, seeing teachers willing to invest, seeing teachers willing to kind of figure out, okay, how do I help this student be successful? It may look a little different. Like, those are the things that excite me.
Love it. Well, every once in a while we'll throw this curveball. I think you'll be able to handle this one just fine, though. Don't worry, David. But around the term of like fundraising. So obviously private schools, even public schools, but private schools I know have to do a lot of different fundraisers throughout the year. Some do whole bunch of little ones. Some do maybe like one big one. I'd love to hear if you guys have one you love that has been really successful for you, or one that the community and the different families get excited about that's successful for you guys. Do you have any fundraisers to highlight that you could share?
Not in the traditional fundraising sense. I think there might have been a couple things prior to COVID that I'm kind of learning or hearing about. But this year, we've had some really cool community events. So one of the things that happened, so there's a little bit of fundraising that happens with it, but I wouldn't call it like a fundraising event the way that I think you're talking about. But in the late fall, we host what's called a holiday bazaar. And it's been one of those traditions that has been around here for a long time. And there's all kinds of vendors from the area, and basically the campus, the school building, there are booths set up, there's food, there's bouncy houses, and it really does become a community thing. And I was kind of curious to see how it would play out. And there really was a lot of people just from the community in general that knew about it, that come every year. And so that's a cool event. But like I said, I wouldn't call that a fundraising event. I think that's more of just a community event that we do raise a little bit of money there. But I'm looking to really build more of ultimately, I'd love to see a major gifts approach and just developing those personal relationships and engaging in individuals, looking for opportunities to just invite them to come and be a part of what we're doing and connect what passions they have with things that we're doing, and then ultimately the resources that they have.
Yeah, and I've learned more about that in, the last 3 months of just hearing more stuff from the college sector of these colleges that have the donors of people who've graduated from them, and they continue to give money, and they have their endowment that they run off of. And I was just doing this last week actually for fun. I was like, looking up what are these endowments that these colleges have and they function off of. And of course, Harvard has the biggest endowment of anything, and it's not even close for like the second. I think it was like $50 billion with a B that they have in their endowment that they function off of. And that's just crazy to think about. $50 billion a school has in their investments in banks and stuff. Then next was like Yale, Princeton, or some of the other Ivy Leagues. But I was like, oh my gosh, because I've heard of private schools, not in the college sector, having these huge endowments, but again, coming from people who have donated or they've made really wise financial decisions. And the random side story, I was at a conference in Missouri a couple months ago at College of the Ozarks, or School of the Ozarks. There's two of them there on campus, and super cool models, like free Christian college and Christian school. And when I was talking to them about it, I was like, man, how does this function? How does this work? And they say, well, we work off the endowment. We live off the investments of it, blah, blah, blah. Long story with that. But she said what's crazy is people come and tour the college because they hear about it and they want to see it. And they have a restaurant and a hotel. And they said there's so many stories that they can't even count them, where people have gone one time and then 10, 20 years later, they'll get a call from a lawyer and they'll say, hey, Miss Betty Smith passed away and she left her entire estate and everything to you guys because she loved what you guys were doing. And I was like, that happens? That happens? That's so crazy to me. So people they get a part of a cause and they want to donate whatever they have to these schools, especially if they don't have any family. Wow. So they're out there. That's why it's if Christian schools, or even, public schools could do it too. What are the people you can tap into that love your school, were changed by your school, that used to go there, graduate, whatever, that they could be a regular giver or donate and above and beyond different things that you guys need, whether it's a new building, a gymnasium, or anything like that. So they're out there. And I'm sure after 60 years of you guys being around, there's people that would want to support that school and be a part of it. I'm assuming, do you guys even have a list of people you could go back through for 60 years?
Yeah, that's been one of the things. So we actually just celebrated our 60th anniversary back in May. So I was in the transition period, obviously finishing up where I was, but I came up for that. And it was a really cool time because I got a chance to see, kind of the story of the school in a lot of ways, and got a chance to meet, people ranging from founding families or relatives of founding families all the way to current families. And so there is a rich history and tradition here, but I do think we have opportunity to connect with them in a deeper way. I don't know if we've done that as of recently. I would say that it's definitely something that has happened in the past, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for me to connect with just people from that era that are still with us, and just people that have been important throughout the history of the school over the 60 years.
Very cool. Do you guys have any like athletes or politicians or anybody, since you being in, again, Washington, anybody that's come out of the school that is a notable person?
I don't know if there's anyone that the name would be recognized, to listeners right now, not off the top of my head.
All right. Just David Robinson. Just mention the David Robinson.
Oh, well, I've disappointed plenty of people with that one, especially when I moved to Texas. I shook a lot of disappointed dads' hands when they heard that the basketball coach was David Robinson. Excuse me. So.
Well, as we wrap up the episode, I always like to leave with the final question, which is giving you a chance to share a piece of advice for any of the other school leaders that are listening. So if David Robinson was to put that into a piece of advice, what would it be?
Wow. Yes. It's weird because I wonder how much I really have to offer for the experienced school leader. But I will say this for all school leaders, make sure that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost. Because if you're not doing that, you're not going to have anything to pour in your people. And that's not anything earth-shattering or new, but sometimes we just need that reminder. So that would be the first thing. And then I guess I'm cheating. I'm taking two. Or the young leader, if you will, or maybe the aspiring leader. You're never going to feel ready. But if God has called you to it, He's going to give you the resources that you need to accomplish the work that He's called you to. And so even if you feel insecure, inadequate, your job is to just be faithful. And I speak from experience with that. I mean, I'm so thankful and blessed to have people that over the last 5 years, I've had the opportunity to meet and, didn't understand why. I guess found favor with these individuals, if you will. That's kind of a cheesy way to say it, but they have been people that I've been able to lean on, that want to see me do well and are personally invested in my success personally, and really our school's success now because I'm here. And I'm so thankful for that. So I hope that I can be that for someone else as well. But I do recognize that was clearly God providing the provision and giving the relationships that I was going to need before I got into this work. And so that'd be my word of advice. If God's calling you to it, it's possible, and trust Him with the provision.
Excellent advice. Well, David, thank you for taking time out of your day to hop on the podcast. And congrats on finishing up your first year. I know you got about a month, as we record this, about a month-ish left of it. But hey, congrats on finishing that year. Hoping you are there for many more. And I know you're doing some great things and have many more great things that you want to do at Washington Christian Academy. So wishing you nothing but the best. I'm a big fan of you. So I'm looking forward to seeing you grow there and seeing your school grow as well. So thank you.
Mitchell, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I got to figure out how I'm going to celebrate year one being in the books. But thank you so much for having me, and anything I can do to support you, don't hesitate to let me know.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to David for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what he's doing up there at Washington Christian Academy, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best as he finishes up his first year and has hopefully many, many more years there. Another shout out I want to give to America's Christian Credit Union, our sponsor for today's episode. Again, they've been celebrating this year 65 years of service, and one of the coolest things that they offer is, again, a reminder, the tuition financing, guys. If you're a Christian school, private school, that at the end of the year, you're not being able to collect all of the tuition that you're supposed to be getting, you need to go check them out. You can check them out online, americaschristiancu.com/schools. It's americaschristiancu.com/schools, and check them out. What I love is the families, if they want, can go get a tuition financing loan through the bank, and they'll deal directly with the bank, and you will always get at the very beginning all the tuition money at the very beginning of the year, and you don't have to be having to chase people or worry about it. You can just focus on education and your students. Super cool service and a great bank. So go check them out. And if that's something you guys need, and they're awesome people over there. Obviously, a couple of quick things. You guys check us out on our website as well. We have some great resources on there. We're actually going to be rolling out some new resources here shortly, but check us out online, schoolsuccessmakers.com. That's schoolsuccessmakers.com. And we have a private Facebook group just for school leaders that we'd love to see you on as well. That's obviously on Facebook, School Success Makers. Private group just for school leaders. I'm personally in there. I'd love to personally see you in there as well and get to know you. So go check us out over there. And again, if you know anybody that'd be a great guest to have on the podcast, let us know that as well. We love meeting new people and getting to know about their school and the challenges and what's going really good at their school. I think that's all I have for today. So thank you guys for listening. And we'll be here next week with another amazing guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then.